Good evening, folks. It's an absolute delight to be here. Thanks to the organizers for making this event possible and for sharing the invitation with my campaign. And it's super. I come through this area quite often. Max mentioned that I'm a businessman. I have a pharmacy in London, Ontario, and I have another facility in Guelph. And so this is a bit of my traditional stomping ground, although I don't get into the community of Cambridge as much as I would like. To expand a bit on Max's fantastic introduction, my family came to the eastern shore of Nova Scotia in Musquodoboit Harbour in 1783, and we liked it so much we didn't really leave. Some apples don't fall that far from the tree, including myself. But since that time, my brother and I, who's my partner and also my financial agent for the campaign, have gone about building a set of businesses. So we have 4 pharmacies in the province of Nova Scotia. We have another pharmacy in London, Ontario, and then a number of residential care facilities, the largest of which is in Ottawa, Ontario, which is a 125-bed facility. And so what I'm trying to share with you here is that I have, experience in job creation from, the most rural of rural villages, which is my own, as an example, with just 2,500 people, all the way up to our biggest cities, and also creating and running businesses in both French and English Canada. And the reason why I picked this is, the starting point for my campaign when I released my policy document, is that in the 15 years that I've been a member of the New Democratic Party, I've seen time and again the Conservatives and Liberals come out and bludgeon us over the head, and is not able to be good stewards of the economy. And quite frankly, I got tired. In the years that I've been in the New Democratic Party, not only myself as a business person, but I've met many men and women across this country from coast to coast to coast who are business people, successful business people, and also members of the New Democratic Party. And in the conversations that I've had with them, they share with me, Martin, it's fantastic to see someone finally come out and, put a nail through that particular myth that's existed. I've been in Ottawa for the past 3 days, and there was a gentleman I spoke to in an interview that I did, and he's a member of the press gallery now, so he's not allowed to hold a membership. But he said, Martin, it must have been 15 or 20 years ago, I can't remember when, but I was a member of the Democratic Party at that time. And he said, I was the president of a group called the Small Business Committee of Ontario within the NDP. And some of you may still remember it. And so what it does, it says that, within our party we have the capability. The difficulty is that we have not been able to express to Canadians the fact that we actually have this capability. And the problem that we also have within the New Democratic Party is that when we make, a statement that's perceived to be out of line with the economy, it gets flashed all over the news. But if the Conservatives and the Liberals, take actions or make statements that are out of line with the economy, it doesn't go anywhere. And it's because our opponents have been very, very effective building a negative frame for us within the New Democratic Party. And so with my candidacy, what I want to have happen is that I want to be able to step forward and say, regardless of what the result is, to have the Democratic Party be able to say on March the 25th, the NDP is able to be good stewards of the economy. The NDP is able to chat with the business community, because that guy over there, Martin Singh, he's been a member of the NDP for 15 years. He's a successful businessman with 11 companies, ranging all across Nova Scotia and Ontario, and he says so. And we're going to be able to do that on March the 25th. We're going to take that message home to you. So along with that, though, I have to, in the same way that Peggy gave you the challenge on the membership, I must share with you that there's a challenge that exists also. We must push back. We must push back against the negative press that we get. Our illustrious former leader, Jack Layton, got caught up in this himself. If you go into Google, and I encourage you to do so when you go home, type in Jack Layton and interest rates. And you'll see a whole slew of articles that come up from the end of the month of April, talking about the position that he took on interest rates during the federal election. Right? And the fact that a lot of economists felt that he had made the wrong decision, and that may be the case. I'll leave that for them to decide. But the fact of the matter is that if you ask the same question of members of Parliament of the other political parties, they wouldn't have gotten the answer right either. But they don't make the paper. And so what it means is that we have a lot of work to do to push back against this effort. It's hugely important. Another part of this message is also to share how we are different. Because I come and I stand before you as a businessman. But the way we do business in the Democratic Party, the way we want to do business in this country is different than how the Conservatives and the Liberals do business. The way the Conservatives and the Liberals do business is essentially a free-for-all. We allow people to just go about their business, and if they make profit, then that's fantastic, and they can take as much as they want. And for those who are, faced with challenges in terms of the economy, they're left to their own devices. We in the Democratic Party, we don't follow this principle. And so the way that we're different is really threefold. The first is that we want to ensure that business operates ethically. What we've seen in the past, and this is the basis of the original Occupy movement in New York, was that a number of businesses, even to their own detriment, work to privatize profit, but shift their debt to the public sector. Meaning that they take on too much risk, and then when the risk catches up to them, they look to the taxpayer to bail them out. The so-called too big to fail. This is a thing that we see too often in business. Well, I can tell you as a businessman, and with all the businessmen and women that I chat with, that's an absolute disgrace. It's abhorrent, to business people that other members of the business community would shuffle what their errors onto the taxpayers, in order to pick up the bill. We wouldn't allow this to happen in the Democratic Party. Second difference is our relationship with labor. I can tell you as a business owner that I have two, and soon to be a third, once I complete another acquisition, sites that are unionized within my company. I can tell you that the mantra being put forward by the Conservative Party is entirely wrong. They would have Canadians believe that the labor movement has to be sacrificed on the altar of economic gain in order to move this country forward and generate jobs. It's absolutely not true. I have a fantastic relationship with the unions that I deal with in my business and work with. And what we must do is share with Canadians that, in fact, the labor movement is not an adversary in terms of building the economy, but in fact, a partner and an ally. And that treating your employees well does not just make you a good person, it is also good for business. That we are different is, how shall I explain it? What we want to do is that we want to generate an economy that builds equality, to make sure that people aren't left behind. And this is based on the principle, and maybe this comes from my religious faith in the way I express it, in that if I'm doing well, but my brother on my right side and my sister on my left side are suffering, then that is not prosperity, and that is not happiness. That we want to make sure that we put in place programs that are able to create a positive environment for the economy, so that our young people, regardless if they come from the very biggest of cities or the very smallest of villages like my own, if they so choose to stay in those same communities, that they're going to be able to find jobs, real jobs, jobs that they can live off of, jobs that they can raise a family off of, jobs that they can work with and eventually retire with if they so choose, to build a more prosperous Canada. These are the three differences that I will be bringing forward. And this is the message that we want to bring forward to Canadians. That yes, the Democratic Party is in favor of working with the business community. Yes, the New Democratic Party has the ability to be good stewards of the economy. But yes, also, we will be doing something different to make sure that this Canada is a more equitable and equal Canada. The idea is because I don't want to go into them too much, because I love talking about them, and I hope that you like hearing about them, but I don't want to take the whole night. But one of the other ones that got released just recently is my pharmacare plan. Some of you may have received a copy of that through email, and if not, it's available on my website, martinsingh.ca. And again, this is where a lot of people ask me, Mark, what are you doing? You're a pharmacist in the pharmacy industry, you make your money from this, what are you doing to advocate the pharmacare plan? And I come back with them, I say, we can have a pharmacare plan, and we can make it work, and we can make it affordable for Canadians, and while deliver health care, we can still have a pharmacy industry that functions within this nation. And so I don't see this being out of place whatsoever. In fact, I see it as the responsibility of the pharmacy industry, given the fact they get paid so much money through solutions to the problems. And so what you'll see in this pharmacare plan is that I go through all the studies that have been done in the past. And these studies, fantastic studies, detailed studies, but what happens is that they focus exclusively on the savings alone. And what they leave out the impact on healthcare, which they assume to be better, but they don't go into completely. They leave out the impact on the private sector, which is extremely important given the fact that pharmacy and retail medications are delivered by the private sector, and they don't talk at all about implementation, which is extremely important. Because for Canadians, when they see savings with a dollar sign, and we're billions after it, it's sometimes difficult to have a solid understanding of what that means. Even the most recent and most detailed study, which was put out by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives about 18 months or 2 years ago, did this exact same thing. They detailed 4 different scenarios that savings could be done, but they did not talk about implementation. They did not talk about the impact on the private sector. And so this is what I'm bringing new to this particular debate. And so when you go through that, what you're going to see is that you're going to see a policy document that lays out not where we are and what we can save, but talks about where we are, where we want to go, and all the goalposts along the way. Those that are easy and will be done quickly, those that are hard and will take many years to get taken care of. But it shares with Canadians full scope of what has to be done to make a national pharmacare plan possible. And it shows that it is possible. And it shows that it can be done even in the face of strong resistance from the pharmaceutical industry and in the face of the naysayers that exist within the parties of our political adversaries. We can make it happen. And I hope that you can find it within your hearts to give me your support, you know, whether it be on February 18th when voting starts or any one of the days from then until March the 24th. And I hope to see you in Toronto at convention. God bless you for the opportunity. Thank you very much. Take care.